Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I want to jump right into this because I want to respect your time. And I've got Jennifer along here. And for those of you that don't know Jennifer, if you could introduce yourself. I have like a slide for you here later, but let's take care of that now.
That sounds good. So I'm Jennifer Radke, the CEO of the National Institute for Social Media and OMCP, or Online Marketing Certified Professionals. What we really do is help marketers upskill and obtain industry standardized certifications.
Fantastic. So Jen's here to help me out because we are going to talk about the missing factor, or as I like to call it, there are a lot of dirty little secrets in the realm of digital marketing education. And why do I know this? How do I know this? Well, for starters, I have been creating digital marketing education since 2002. Believe it or not, one of the first courses that I was involved in was for the Direct Marketing Association, and they wanted to create a digital marketing course in the early 2000s. And what they created were 10 90-minute lectures of voice over PowerPoint. Oh, how amazing that technology was. And we have come so far from that, learning what works and what doesn't work. But I have worked for nearly every online digital marketing education provider, and I've learned why they do what they do, what happens, how to structure courses, and so much so that I went back and got a degree in a master's degree in education and instructional design, because I wanted to learn how to put together online courses and what was driven by market economics and what was driven by actual learning. So I've been in this industry since 1994. That's when I started building websites, learned SEO from there, and then have just been able to work with so many amazing companies and written a couple books about it as well, if anyone is still reading them. And then, of course, we have Jennifer. She's the CEO of the OMCP and the National Institute for Social Media. She'll be here to answer some questions about certification, as well as some inputs about digital marketing education and what's happening online. Here's the problem. I'm going to start with the conclusion right away. Number one, there's three problems we have in digital marketing education. Number one is that the university level students are completely unprepared. They are not learning the essentials of what they need to step into a role. There's a lot of things that are going on there, and we'll dig into that. The second thing, and this is the one that from a professional education standpoint is probably the biggest, and as well as it can be the biggest hindrance to people's careers. And that's because nearly every online educational provider is more concerned about scale than student success. What I mean is that they are more concerned about building a product that thousands of people will buy. And it doesn't matter your learning style, doesn't matter how they're going to deliver it to you. Everyone gets the same thing because it's the only way that they can grow. And growth is the driver, rather than focusing on the individual students and what they need to succeed. The third part of this, and this is why Jennifer is here, is how do you measure and validate your skills, your experience? How can employers know the difference between two people that have been, let's say, 3 years each doing SEO or social media? Depending upon your background, depending upon what kind of company it was, depending upon what agency, they could have completely different backgrounds and experience, even though they both have 3 years of SEO or social media. How do you quantify it? How do you measure it? So these are the major problems right now in digital marketing education. To start with, I think we all know, think back to your university days. One of the things that I have realized is that when I am teaching analytics, and I'm teaching it mostly to marketers, I will ask, how many of you have had any analytics training? And maybe 1 out of 30 have had some level of analytics. And even then, it's been at such a high level that it's unusable. They didn't learn anything from it to make it practical. And so the problem is that a lot of the university education, a lot of the information they're teaching, it's a lot of theory, not a lot of practice. And that's because we have educators and they're starting to bring in more practitioners at the adjunct level. But the problem is they're only paying adjuncts about $12 to $15 an hour or by student. And so if you want real expertise, it's very hard to do that at an adjunct level. So you're going to get some level of practitioner. And as well, sometimes you're going to get outdated content. Even when I took my master's degree just 4 years ago, the instructional content referred to Web 2.0. And so I knew it was dated, even just that at that point. But that's what we're dealing with when it comes to standardized university education. There's a problem there. So here is where certifications have become so critical. And we've seen this in multiple areas, multiple research. LinkedIn's job report, just they've said this now for the last couple of years. And this has been the most direct statement now that they've produced, that recruiters consider certifications to be more relevant than university degrees. Jennifer, this is why you're here. What is a certification and what makes a certification so valuable?
Yeah, Matt, it's amazing the research that we have. And I love everything you mentioned about one of the things I should have mentioned in my bio was I spent 15 years in higher education on the administration side, but I've also taught. And a lot like RJ, right? It depends on how you teach, but the majority of folks are doing too much theory. And so certifications are there for that very purpose. We want to help assess a professional's ability in a certain set of skills, right? For the National Institute for Social Media, that's on social media strategy. For OMCA and OMCP, that is around digital marketing practices. A lot of people will say, well, just testing someone, right, isn't quite enough. And who are you to decide what we test, right? Well, we do all kinds of great research to make sure that we're finding out what is needed in the industry. So one of the things that we do is a role delineation or job studies every couple of years in both of the organizations to make sure that we're getting information from the practitioners and from the hiring managers, really to understand what is it they're looking for in these particular roles? What are the skills that they value most important? What are they using on a daily and weekly basis? Where are opportunities and things that they feel are missing from what they're doing? And those studies really give us a lot of great insight. From there, we have a board of directors or a board of advisors who actually work in the industry, a variety of different size organizations, types of organizations, geographic locations. And those subject matter experts take the information from the role delineation study, take what they know in their experience, and help us to create learning objectives that we put into a certification exam. So that's a little background on how it's done. A lot of people get confused between a certificate and a certification. And there are a couple of common pieces. One is a certificate is often a certificate of completion. It says that you finished something. It doesn't necessarily say that you did well. It just means that you did it. So a lot of us we could, in theory, give a certificate today for everybody who showed up, right? If we wanted them to have a certification, then traditionally the information they're being assessed on is created by a third party. So it wouldn't be Matt and Jen's certification. It would be somebody else who's taking our information and creating an exam around it. And then some sort of, I said exam, but it could be assessment. So it could be a practical application assessment. It could be a verbal assessment, or it could be a more traditional multiple choice or fill in the blank type assessment. So those are some of the more differences between a certificate or a certification.
Well, and this is interesting too, because like when I'm creating a course and I create courses for many different organizations, there is a review process. However, if I want to make an OMCP certified course, that automatically raises the level of what I have to produce as an instructor. that there are a number of competencies that have to be addressed. And then I submit that course for review by another OMCP, either instructor or reviewer.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very different. In today's world, we've got everybody creating a class. There's a class for absolutely everything out there. Just Google it. Um, but what is their driving factor, right? When somebody wants to say that they are a registered educational provider for us, or that they're offering a OMCA or OMCP approved course, they have to go through a rigorous review process. So we take a look at the curriculum, we line it up with the objectives for our certification exam. There has to be a percentage that is met. It does not have to be 100%, but it does need to be very high. And then again, it's not me doing that. I am pulling in qualified reviewers to go through that information and make sure there's no bias, right? Because it shouldn't be about whether or not I have money coming in. It should be about whether or not we are adequately preparing students who are taking your class to sit for the exam. And that's really important to us. And then a different level is to follow the guidelines set out by certification organizations. So the Institute for Credentialing Excellence, for example, is a third party who reviews certification organizations like ours. We are a member of that. We haven't chosen to put either of our companies through the accreditation process because it's not necessarily required, but we follow the format that they find valuable for testing and assessment. We use all the right triggers, right? And make sure that we are in alignment. So.
And from an instructor standpoint, it's a lot of fun because we develop the courses, but then we get a spreadsheet of all of the competencies required to be covered by OMCP or NISM. And then I, as the instructor, have to map each competency to where it's covered in the course. So there is a significant amount of work that goes into creating a certified course as apart from just a course, a general information course. So it's always something to watch out for to see if a course is certified. And again, that means it's a third party that's reviewed it and said this meets the requirements.
Absolutely.
A lot of fun. And yes, and for the courses that we're going to talk about today, I mapped them and I sent them to Jen. So they are taken care of. Let's talk a little bit about professional education. And Joe had made a comment that it's not just, undergraduate, it's graduate level. And I've taught some graduate level courses, which is nice because graduate level can bring in more practitioners. But when we're talking about professional education, especially online, there are a lot of companies, and we can just go through the list. There's a Udemy, Udacity, LinkedIn Learning. There's a number of them that offer digital marketing education. Now, here's the thing. The vast majority of them are broadly education companies. They don't specialize in digital marketing. And what I found is a lot of companies, they started by teaching programming. They started teaching programming languages. And the reason why now they want to add digital marketing into their catalog is because digital marketing is popular. Social media marketing, SEO, these are popular subjects, and it's easy to see that they're in demand. And the problem is this education company is used to producing courses on programming, which, as I like to explain to them, that's all science. It's yes and no. As soon as you start teaching marketing, it gets fuzzy. There's no yes or no. There's sometimes yes and sometimes no, and it depends. And so we're teaching more context. And so it makes it very hard to teach marketing within a focused template of an education company. Also, and this is a trend that's been going years and years, every time I create a new course for an education company, the number of minutes of each video goes down. It used to be 5-minute videos. Now it's 3-minute videos. And it's because they're using a specific data point. How long, what's the drop-off time? And the problem is, and I've pushed back on this every time, because when I start looking at my drop-off rate, it's non-existent. But you've got other instructors that have incredible drop-off rates. And so they're only using a single data point and broadly applying it, saying all our videos have to be 3 minutes or less. And the problem is now you have to fit it into their template. 10-second introduction. Here's what I'm going to cover. I cover it. Here's what we just covered. And so you have a very simplistic approach to presenting very in-depth content. And so as a result, it's mostly going to be surface level. The next level, and these are where some education companies and even companies that are now focused on digital marketing, and we're going to bring this down a little bit more. What are you going to get when you use a digital marketing training or education company? The least easiest common denominator is a video only course. And I've seen a lot of companies, their main selling point is that they have hundreds of hours of video. And I don't know if that excites you. It doesn't excite me, not at all. I'd much rather watch Netflix than hundreds of hours of videos on SEO. Now, some of those, and this is where LinkedIn Learning, you'll get the video, but you will also get worksheets, which is great. There are templates, there's worksheets, but the feedback that I get is once students go through the worksheets, they want some feedback. Did I do it right? Am I coming to the right conclusions? And the problem is there's no feedback that way. Some other companies will offer office hours and they'll provide an advisor, because very few companies will offer office hours with the instructor that created the course, because they paid for the instructor to build the course. Let's just put it this way. It's not financially practical to have the instructor who created the course also do the office hours, because they had to pay for the instructor to build, present, deliver the course. But now, if you want that professor or instructor to do the office hours, you're paying a couple $100s an hour for that to happen, and that's financially unfeasible. So what happens is they put out applications for people to apply to be an advisor or office hours or an adjunct or something like that. And the problem is they're only offering about $12 to $15 an hour for someone to do that. This drives me crazy, because it means I have someone who's advising a course I created who's going to apply for a $12 to $15 an hour job doing that advisor. Not someone who has 10 years in the industry, not someone who maybe even has 5 years in the industry. That level and the application process, you're looking at people that maybe have 2 to 3 years in the industry, that's the kind of money that they are willing to work for in order to deliver that. I have no problem with hiring people to do certain work, but I want to know, if I have an advisor who's doing office hours, what's your background? How much have you done? And there's many times where people going through the course have more knowledge than the advisor that they've been given. So what's the solution? What should you look for? Look for people that have videos, activities, but also a high-level instructor that you can talk to. You know their background, you know their experience, because then you will get coaching and feedback. You want your instructor to have more experience, more years than you do, and that is hard to find. Very few, if any, education companies are offering that. And here's why that's so critical. Being the father of an autistic child, not everyone learns the same way. This is something that I have learned through my education studies, through my master's program, but also raising my daughter. There are people that need to learn, that need that coaching, that need that feedback. Not everyone learns by watching videos. And so it's so critical to offer alternative learning methods that everyone benefits from, not just 1 or 2 people. The other issue is when we start looking at education providers, how fresh is the content? I know that there are some providers out there, their content is between 8 to 10 years old. And in the world of SEO, that's ancient. Same thing in the world of social media. If your social media program that you're going through is more than 2 years old, it's ancient. And other companies, in order to make money, they'll also distribute it. But ultimately, it's still passive learning. You're sitting and watching. And because of that, it makes it easy and it increases the shelf life of these products. So here's the solution, and here's what I am doing to try and change these dirty little secrets of the training industry. As I mentioned, sitting and watching videos, learning from advisors that might have less experience than you. I'm a huge fan of apprenticeships. Here's a picture of my daughter, and she is a short little 5-foot blacksmith. And she has been apprenticing blacksmithing for years. This is a picture of her with one of her mentors who's teaching her knife making. And as I was watching this, and I was just observing for a couple of hours, and he told me that when I'm teaching someone, I love to make mistakes because when we make mistakes, then I can teach you how to recover. I can teach you how to fix the mistake. He said, but if we don't make a mistake during the training, they never learn how to recover from it. What an amazing testament to apprenticeship, to coaching, because in this kind of format, I think, Jennifer, you even said this the other day, you're encouraging mistakes because that's how we learn the best.
Absolutely. We do. We do encourage that. We're actually in the process of bringing on some interns, and the whole point is to put them through the training and preparation course and allowing them to make mistakes with the concepts that are being introduced, because they will learn from that. We're also going to have them teaching others, because that's another great way to have concepts stick in the brain. And so that
Mhm.
apprenticeship learning can be so valuable.
Absolutely. And when I was starting my agency, one of the resources that I tapped into early, it was set up by our local community college, and it was called SCORE. I don't know if it's a national thing or not, but it's the Service Corps of Retired Entrepreneurs. What a resource. People who have been there and done that, who have dealt with the battles of starting their own company. I, you know, it was free too. And that was some of the most valuable advice I got because I was learning from people who have been there. And what a great, great experience. Here's why I like apprentice style learning. I call it active learning. I'm not just the one who calls it active learning. This is an educational concept. Those of you with children in school, you might see them doing more and more of this, where instead of doing a reading assignment or a writing assignment, they're doing something hands on. They're creating something. This is what we refer to as the real world scenario. What are you creating or building that has real world relevance, the basis of that? You see, and in doing that, you're developing multiple skills, such as research, development, pulling everything together, editing, writing. You're utilizing multiple skills in order to accomplish the activity. And then the immediate feedback from an expert instructor, from a teacher, anyone. These types of hands-on active learning scenarios, they increase retention, they increase motivation, they increase learner confidence, because not only have they heard it or written it, they've done it. And that is where effective education really becomes strong. The apprentice style learning goes beyond the classroom. When you have someone that you can talk to, someone when you can go beyond the classroom. What do I mean by that? In my courses, and I'll explain a little bit in my courses, what we're doing is you watch videos, do an activity, and I give you immediate feedback. Most of the time, the feedback has nothing to do with the actual skill that's being taught. The feedback has to do with, let's say, how you're presenting, the politics of the situation, who you're presenting to. And so a lot of the learning that takes place in this format goes beyond the basic skill, and it goes more towards your entire career. It moves more towards how you navigate the politics of an office, of working with a manager, a team, working by yourself. And so what you're getting is a full experience rather than just a magnified skill that we're going to focus on. That is, oh, I love how these things mess up slides. So, the benefits of active learning and coaching. When you have a live instructor that you're meeting with, course completion rates double because you have someone that you are talking with right now. And this is what one of the stats that I just blows me away. The average course completion rate at a lot of these, large education companies is less than 1%. Less than 1% course completion and for online learning. Now, as soon as you start adding in more active learning, when you have activities, that increases the completion rate. When you add a live instructor, that increases the completion rate. When you add feedback, office hours, coaching, that again doubles and increases the completion rate. But it also increases confidence. It increases the understanding because you're also getting personalized instruction, which means the different areas of your skills, your capabilities are being addressed, not just what might be important in the competencies, but beyond that. Also, as an instructor, I can see where the incompetencies are strong or maybe weak, and we can work on that. I always hate doing it, but there are times when I reject assignments. But the thing is, it's not, and I've explained it to the students, this does not mean a failure because in a real world office environment, if you give a research or an assignment to your manager, they can always send it back to you and say, I need this, this, and this, and this. That's what happens. We need to get used to, again, making mistakes is okay. Maybe not fulfilling the expectations of the project. It's okay. Recovering from that, learning what's needed, that's where learning happens. And so when I reject an assignment, it's a positive thing because it means we're going to address certain areas that need to be addressed, or it has everything to do with how you're going to present it. And presentation is becoming more and more of a factor in hiring, in job performance. How you present is becoming very, very critical. And unfortunately, Jennifer, we even addressed this in a recent podcast. People judge your knowledge by your ability to present. Whether or not that's fair, it's happening.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to find a way to clearly communicate. And if we can't practice our presentation skills, we may not ever have really great communication abilities.
Absolutely. And so communication and presentation, when you present your work, has everything to do with your credibility, your knowledge, and how others perceive you in the room. All right. All that to say, now, you know the dirty little secrets. What can we do about that? Here at SiteLogic, I am trying to change all this because my goal at SiteLogic is I want to develop the next generation of digital marketing leaders, not just the marketers, leaders, because it's going to be the leaders who understand these things, who have the benefit of coaching, of mentorship, of apprenticeship. And so the format you get at SiteLogic, it's short video lessons and immediately followed by a hands-on project. And then that project is given to you in a scenario, what you have to do and who you're going to be delivering it to and what format it needs to be delivered. There are some live presentations. There are some where it's a PowerPoint presentation or it's a single page report, just depending upon how this is going to be delivered. This tests you not only in your ability to match the skills, but also in a real world environment, how you can adapt your knowledge, your presentation to the audience to increase your marketability in the job market or with clients. And so we have personalized coaching, feedback. Your instructor, me, I'm the coach. I'm not going to farm this out to somebody who only has a few years of experience. I'm not looking to grow. I'm not looking to scale. I'm looking to create the next generation of digital leaders. And so if you come to learn.sitelogic.com, this is where you'll find our course catalog. We have certification courses. Of course, our core is the OMCA certification prep, and that covers 9 different disciplines of the OMCA certification. We just launched OMCP certifications in SEO and content marketing. And so anyone who is looking to take their certification to that next level, the OMCP is where you can do that. You need to have two specialties in order to pass the OMCP exam. And then as you can see, we have other courses in content marketing, broken out a number in SEO, but also in analytics. And probably one of the most popular courses in analytics is the data presentation and persuasion. Anyone who has to present data, there are ways, methods that you can do that will drastically increase your credibility as well as your persuasiveness when presenting to an audience. Jennifer, could you take a moment here and explain OMCA and OMCP?
Absolutely. Happy to do that. Before I do, though, I want to share something that you don't even know I was going to say, Matt. Um, but but I love it because Kenneth has posted a really sweet comment. OMCP is and NISM both are very fortunate to have great educators. And one of the reasons that I am here today is because, Matt, you are one of those great educators. And I'm excited about the work that's happening at SiteLogic. Every time we have a student who goes through one of your courses or attends one of your workshops, I get feedback like what Kenneth has put in the chat. Your presentation style is amazing. People get energized. They feel like the information is appropriate for what they're learning. It's not just basic theory, but really applicable. Take what I've learned and put it into practice information. And so that's one reason why I'm here today. That's one reason why I'm excited to have SiteLogic and you, Matt, as a part of the OMCP family.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah, of
really
course.
appreciate that. And thank you, Ken. I appreciate that as well.
I just couldn't go any further without mentioning that. The difference between OMCA and OMCP. So OMCA is the Online Marketing Certified Associate. It is meant for a newer practitioner in the industry, and it covers broadly those different content domain areas that you talked about. And there are 8 of them. And then the OMCP requires a base exam that also covers those broad areas, but requires 2 specialty exams. And the specialty exams are going to be difficult to pass if you're not somewhat working in those areas already. Your classes, the SEO and the content marketing, will help, but they're not intended, the OMCP certification is not intended for an entry level recent graduate. That's where the OMCA should start. But that OMCP really, the title of it is Online Marketing Certified Professional. So we go from an associate to a professional. And it's meant to expand on knowledge. Take what you're learning or have learned in the practice of your career and specialize that in areas. And so you have to choose 2 out of, I believe there are 6 currently that have specialty exam options. And you are the first to create specialty exam prep courses. So that is also very exciting.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah,
I did
you
not
are.
know that. Wow. Oh, I thought there were a few other out there, but the thing is the demand is there. People have been asking for me to create OMCP level content. It's just finding the time to do it has I will say this has been a 2-year project to put this together, make it happen. And so thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. The OMCP, let me see, the certification, the professional level, I would say they usually have at least 4 to 5 years in a role of SEO, content, social,
Pay
at
per click.
least,
Yep.
yeah, at least 4 to 5 years in that role. For OMCA, we get a lot of managers. Like, for example, someone who they're coming from a different department and they need to understand everything digital. They may not be strong in it, but they're going to be managing all the marketing. And so they need to get up to speed on that. That's a great way of doing that. So OMCA, we get a lot of people who are just out of university, but also I would say a lot of also career changers that are coming in to learn what all is involved in digital marketing. And from there, find some specialties, but also people that are looking to, I need this so that I can move into management of this. And then your OMCP are people like, again, they've been in role 4 to 5 years. They're actively engaged in it. And that comes to validating your skills for moving up, for management, even beyond that. Yeah, I'll tell you what, the OMCP certification holders that I have met have been incredibly impressive. It is an incredible group of people. And just Jennifer, could you talk about some of the organizations that require certification or that seek that out in their hiring?
Yes, some of that information is proprietary, so I can't share too much unless they're vocal about it or have given us permission. But there are organizations who seek certification for OMCA and OMCP specifically. Some of the larger ones are like Procter and Gamble and Accenture, who send people through those certifications in their team. We also see a lot of agencies and corporations that have 5+ people on their team really working to get the entire team certified in order to speak the same language, right? To communicate effectively with agencies. It's also so that they're communicating with their clients in a very strategic and systematic way. When we bring people in from different backgrounds, we might use different vernacular and we're describing things. And that can be confusing if you have to fill in or sit on a team who works with a client for an agency. And so we're seeing a lot of different organizations really put a focus on this. And that's why we're also seeing some of the more progressive higher educational institutions want to add this to their curriculum as well, is because their corporate partners are asking for it. They're asking for, maybe it's even master's programs that secure more of this active learning and then include a certification. So it's amazing the breadth of interest, not only here in the United States, but all across the globe, who
Mhm.
are seeking certification from OMCP.
Exactly. And one of the things you said was very critical, the language, the vocabulary. A couple of years ago, I was hired by Microsoft to go to all of their international offices and teach them how to work better with agencies. Uh, and a lot of it had to do with, here's the language, here's what this means, here's how to write a brief. It's things that are very simple, but when we're talking to other organizations, there's a lot of internal language that we rely on. And so these certifications also help alleviate some of that.
Absolutely. And any misconceptions too. When we grow up self-taught, we have bad habits that we maybe met along the way from somebody on YouTube or wherever, right? And so once you have to assess that information and knowledge, you kind of button things up and get into a common practice for the industry.
Well, thank you so much. Absolutely. I'm just one person trying to change a little bit of the education industry, being neck deep in it for the past couple of decades. It has been an eye-opening experience, one that I enjoy, but also frustrating as an instructor to know that when I create a course, it's maybe 30% of what I would teach in a workshop or what I would want people to know, because it's just the basic skills. And there's so much that we have to put into it. I'm doing a course right now, and I won't say who it's for, but they want it in 90 minutes. And how am I supposed to teach this in 90 minutes, broken down in 4-minute increments? And so now that's my challenge. And so I just feel like it just becomes commoditized when we enroll in courses like this. And so I'm trying to change that. The only way I can change it is doing it myself. I'm going to open it up. If anyone has any questions, the comments have been absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for those. I like hearing about your experiences with different educational institutions. It's really, really good to know. And I will say there are some great programs out there. I'm not saying all of them are bad. There are some very good ones out there. Evram, yes. If we don't have experience or no hands-on experience, can an advanced course be useful or helpful? That is a great, great question. So one of the things that I would recommend If you don't have a lot of experience or hands-on, I would not do the certification course. Well, put it this way. The OMCA course will give you a broad view of digital marketing across 9 disciplines. That's where most people start. That does have SEO in it, as an example. It has social media in it. It's all an understanding overview of the digital marketing industry. If you want to deep dive in one of the areas, such as content marketing or SEO, then I would do one of those courses. I wouldn't jump into an OMCP level course at this point. You should have quite a few years of experience. Otherwise, start at OMCA or one of the specific discipline courses of SEO, content development, content marketing, or analytics. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate the question. Yes,
Yeah, I
Jim.
was gonna say, I love that question. And it's one that I get a lot, is where should I start? Because everybody wants that higher level or what's perceived a higher level certification. But you got to go where your learning is. And if you have no background, the OMCA is the better place to be. I also get a lot of questions about the different educational partners that we offer. And I love that you did this, Matt. So my question is, will this be available for folks to listen to at a later time so that I can reference this is one of the differences between you and perhaps one of the other vendors who is fantastic and approved to offer the OMCA or OMCP prep, but do it in a different format?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This it is being recorded, and so we will have this available for anyone who's signed up. But we could also make this on demand as well.
I love it.
I think I'll just put it on the learning site. Thank you so much for attending. Really appreciate the time you took out of your day. And if you have any questions at all, you can go to sitelogic.com or the learning site at learn.sitelogic.com, or you can reach us directly here at SiteLogic. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Jennifer, for helping us out and bringing also some information about NISM and OMCP. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Matt. Great job as always.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone, have a great rest of the day and a great weekend as well. And hope to see you soon in one format or another.